Howdy folks, and welcome to this brand new episode of the Rochester Indie Musician Spotlight, Rochester's premier music and interview show. We're moving right along in season 6, and we're excited to be here bringing you another musically diverse season. Today we are back with Jackson Cavalier. We're going to start doing this thing maybe once every season where we bring in an artist we've had before, but only after their sound has changed a little bit. Jackson was a guest all the way back in season 2. Can you believe that was 2 years ago now?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
And time has flown.
It certainly has.
The spotlight has changed, Jackson has changed, but the hat hasn't.
The hat has remained.
The hat has remained. It's a little bit worn than it was before, but we are very excited to have him on anyway. But before we chat with him, let's hear from the people who make this show possible. Josh Pettinger and crew at Wicked Squid Studios on Smith Street in Rochester have the expertise, experience, and the facility to handle all of your band's needs with an emphasis on community experience and fun. Drop them a line today to schedule your next recording session or to become a member of their studio today. This episode is brought to you by Bop Shop Records, Bernunzio Uptown Music, Soundsource, and Three Heads Brewing. Our home again this season is the warm, creative space of Bop Shop Records. At 1460 Monroe Avenue, Bop Shop Records is celebrating 30 years of presenting live creative music and is the best place in the 585 for jazz, blues, and classic rock in a curated vinyl selection. Bernunzio Uptown Music, located in Rochester's East End, has been providing Rochester and the world with quality vintage, new, and used string instruments since 1976. Bernunzio's also offers concerts, workshops, and jam sessions. They are now also a registered Stetson hat dealer. Find your sound in a Stetson. Trusted by musicians, recording engineers, and consumers, SoundSource is the place to go for audio gear, repair, consignment needs, and to have all your questions answered by knowledgeable and friendly staff. Visit them at 161 Norris Drive today. Good people, great beer, amazing music. Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue is quickly becoming a Rochester and regional favorite for unique brews and one-of-a-kind music. Concerts are Thursday through Saturday, with the Rochester residency kicking each week off, but the beer and good times are on tap every day of the week. Jackson, thanks for being here, man. Really appreciate it. So, let's start off nice and easy. Tell us what you've been up to in these 2 years.
So, I went back to school.
That's not a small thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I feel like a lot of musicians and artists kind of have that balance where it's like, you know, you'll do music or you'll do art and you'll get really into it, and then at some point, you know, it just becomes not as fun anymore, you know. I got kind of burnt out on it. I had plenty of gigs,
Right.
and, you know, the money was there. It wasn't anything like that. It was just, you know, you get so burnt out just doing it. So, yeah, I moved away. Moved up to Potsdam, New York. Potsdam's nice. It's just there's not much up there, which was actually great, you know.
Right. It was a way to decompress and sort of take the load off after
100%.
Really
Yeah. It was almost like a sabbatical of sorts. But you know, during that time, I wrote a lot of music, and it was really great. You know?
Now, did you go there to study music?
No, I did not actually. I went for computer science, which didn't pan out, and then I went for a math degree, which also didn't pan out. So now I'm just kind of floating. But it's okay. I'm thinking maybe communications or something like that. But, you know, something where I can still do music and also have like a degree in something that I enjoy. You know.
Right.
So
I'm sure that's a big perspective. I mean, I know, speaking as, you know, someone who's about the same age, like you're trying to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and figure out what you want to do. So going to, I mean, I know you were still writing music and you were still playing some in Potsdam, but obviously you decided to come back to Rochester.
Oh, yeah.
So before we talk about maybe the music specifically, but this might be related, now that you're back, how has your perspective on being a playing and gigging musician changed?
It's changed quite a bit. You know, now I try to have more fun with it. You know, I plan out my gigs where, you know, I still get by, and, you know, I still take some gigs where it's like, you know, it's more about the work than, you know, than anything else, like private parties and stuff like that. But, you know,
The human stereo gig.
Yeah. Exactly. But overall, it's a lot nicer, you know, being back in Rochester and having much more perspective. Like most people that leave Rochester, you realize how great it is after you leave, and you say,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
It happens a lot.
Yep, and Rochester, I would say it's on par with any of the other big cities, if not better. You know, because it's a tight knit community, but there's a huge community.
Exactly. The recurring theme on the Spotlight on this season has been Rochester is second in the nation in musicians per capita, only behind Nashville.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I think in STEM graduates too.
Oh, that too.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and especially now with our booming optics and photonics industries as well. That we're in a good place right now. But we have a Rochester-related question, so we'll get to that in a minute. So, with like the newfound mental space that you got in Potsdam, and you were writing music, and we were talking about this before. Your ability to not just like do the music, but like post about it on social media and like share it all the time, show what you're working on. I really commend that because like I'm a person who just has to like focus on doing the work. So it's kind of cool following that and seeing the progression of learning accordion, picking up keyboards, experimenting with different styles, even singing Spanish in a couple songs.
Yeah.
But why don't we talk about that change in sound? There are a lot of elements that are like, you would hear that and you know that's Jackson Cavalier, but what are some of the things that have changed before you left and to now?
Well, I think it's strange because right before I left, probably for like about a 6-month stretch before I left, I was playing solo for the first time in a very long time. And I think that's when we actually did the last Spotlight.
Yep.
But it was strange because when I was with the Fever Tones, I wanted to play like progressive folk music where, it was kind of like, a concept album and all this, and it wore me out. And at that time I started getting really heavily into like the 60s folk scene. So, I was all about trying to, get back in touch with that. And I'm glad I did. I think what happened, I started playing that stuff and I dived really, deep into it, and I started playing a lot of that stuff, but I realized that, some of the older stuff I was doing, I could blend the two, and, I kind of found a new sound that was, it felt really appealing, and I was really happy with it.
A perfect example of that is, you will forgive me if I don't remember the tune, but we'll put in a little line at the end that you actually played 2 years ago for us, and you brought it back, and it was really cool to hear how that changed.
Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed to go along with this discussion is like the pounding kick drum and the tambourine, and like the really driving acoustic guitar. I hope this picks up in the recording, but being behind the camera and listening to it, it's like half actually comes from you strumming like it's so hard, and the other half comes from the amp. But there's this new sort of, it's like this nice combination of being like sort of this like spacier, bigger sound, but also being really driving.
Yeah, and I think it's nice. I mean, Matthias, my guitar player, and he plays a bit of organ and stuff too. We're childhood friends. I've known him since I was 5. I love him like a brother. And we've been playing music together for years and years, just on and off. So that's been nice. When I thought of putting a band together, I said, I want someone that is going to play, basically I needed to find people that could be creative, but also not like overplay. I found in prior iterations of groups that I played in, that was always the problem, where there'd be way too much going on and it would lose focus. But with this, everyone, plays as little as possible, and because of that, it comes together and it sounds like one very cohesive thing, and it's phenomenal. I mean, Katie Preston on bass, you can't beat that.
No, you can't. And we had this is another Spotlight alumna who's been on the show before. She was on a year ago with Ben Morey and the Eyes. She was playing keys and singing, but she was breaking out her bass chops for this. So another thing you've been up to is you released an album called Spellbound.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
So I recorded when I was up in Potsdam. I did a lot of recording and a lot of writing, and I was very fortunate to work with a talented young engineer by the name of Thomas Draper. He was fantastic. He's definitely like a young up and coming talent. He's going to be doing some stuff for sure, but he's a really good producer, and he was always, I recorded everything, the guitar, drums, and vocals all at once, which was really great because a lot of studios don't want to touch that at all. But we were able to get really good isolation, and we were able to do a lot of overdubs on it. But I recorded it last fall. I recorded an album by the name of Half Moon, and then in the spring I recorded Spellbound. And it was really cool. I mean, there was a couple songs on there that I used to play a long time ago, and I'd even recorded before, but I said, I want to update these and kind of, really go all in. I wanted to kind of have this blank canvas and really, like, let my imagination run wild on it. And I think I was able to accomplish that. There's a bit of glockenspiel on it. There's melodica. There's, I played a lot of lead guitar on it, which was, something I hadn't done in a long time. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's a really nice balance of stuff, and you got a taste of it. You saw some of the more like busking stuff that Jackson still does, by the way. I happen to catch him once or twice out at when I'm working with News 8 at our various festivals here. But you can still, like, the tune about Mount Hope was really great. We all said, we're like, oh wait, no, you can write a folk song about Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
So you get a really nice balance of stuff. So hopefully we'll be seeing more of Jackson Cavalier and his band going out in the future playing in Rochester.
Way up Mount Hope, that's where I rest, under willow trees and under tall grass. I'll wait for my love, I wait her home, life through.
Since you've been on, we've added this new segment on the show called the Lightning Round. I know you're a fan of the show, but for those who maybe haven't seen, this is how it works. Even though it's called the Lightning Round, feel free to take your time. These are three big picture questions.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Cool. First thing, if you could accomplish one thing in music and be happy, what would it be?
I think my main goal is to get other people to play music. I got into it because I saw one of my older cousins was strumming guitar, and I said, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I was like 5 years old, and I just said I want to do that. And ever since that moment, I went after it. So if I could do that for other people, which, I think more than anything, when I busk, I get a lot of little kids that kind of see that, and they say that's really cool, and hopefully I kind of inspire, people to pick up an instrument and play. I think that's the greatest thing. It brings such joy to people, so...
That's a great goal. And I think that's the spotlight first, by the way. I'm not sure anyone said that before. Next one, we touched on these themes a little bit, but what makes Rochester such a great place for original music to thrive?
I think that there's an extremely supportive community, and I think that one of the main things is financially it's there. One of the major things I learned when I moved away was that, the culture behind gigging is not the same everywhere. I had a couple paid gigs up in Potsdam, but most of the time, you just kind of got laughed at if you said, how about what's pay,
Right.
But in Rochester, you can live off your art, whatever media you're doing. I mean, it's really a fantastic thing. I think that's one of the top things about Rochester that really makes it, that makes it that much more Rochester, I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, awesome. And the last one, do you have any advice for aspiring artists?
I would say, practice.
That's a good one.
Don't be afraid to be creative and know what you're worth. I think there's a lot of people that they don't acknowledge that, and they'll book gigs and, they get underpaid or, they just kind of get exploited by the system. And, I think all it takes is you saying like, hey, can we do a guarantee? And most of the time people would just say, yeah, it's fine. Like people appreciate that. It's it's nice.
Perfect. Jackson, thank you so much for your time, man. Really appreciate it. I'm Dan Gross. One more time, Jackson Cavalier. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Rochester Indie Musician Spotlight, and we'll see you next time. Josh Pettinger and crew at Wicked Squid Studios on Smith Street in Rochester have the expertise, experience, and the facility to handle all of your band's needs with an emphasis on community experience and fun. Drop them a line today to schedule your next recording session or to become a member of their studio today. This episode is brought to you by Bop Shop Records, Bernunzio Uptown Music, SoundSource, and Three Heads Brewing. Our home again this season is the warm, creative space of Bop Shop Records. At 1460 Munro Avenue, Bop Shop Records is celebrating 30 years of presenting live creative music and is the best place in the 585 for jazz, blues, and classic rock in a curated vinyl selection. Bernunzio Uptown Music, located in Rochester's East End, has been providing Rochester and the world with quality vintage, new, and used string instruments since 1976. Bernunzio's also offers concerts, workshops, and jam sessions. They are now also a registered Stetson hat dealer. Find your sound in a Stetson. Trusted by musicians, recording engineers, and consumers, SoundSource is the place to go for audio gear, repair, consignment needs, and to have all your questions answered by knowledgeable and friendly staff. Visit them at 161 Norris Drive today. Good people, great beer, amazing music. Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue is quickly becoming a Rochester and regional favorite for unique brews and one-of-a-kind music. Concerts are Thursday through Saturday, with the Rochester residency kicking each week off, but the beer and good times are on tap every day of the week.
Soon I But then I heard that devil laugh, heard him really moan, heard that devil laughing, and I break out on my soul. His words were not a comfort, his fires to my soul. His words were not a comfort as he claimed me for his own. It was my death. It was my death. It was my death. My bitter end. His claws are splitting dead. His hoofs that broke my bones. His claws are splitting me, and I won't back to my home. Well, was it just a dream? Was any of it real? Was it just a dream or just a nightmare so surreal? It was my death. It was my death. It was my death. My bitter end. I swear I changed my ways, and I walk that straight and narrow. In case I better take a chance with a man of a numero. There were ghosts in these walls, and I see 'em in the mirror. And they
Josh Pettinger and crew at Wicked Squid Studios on Smith Street in Rochester have the expertise, experience, and the facility to handle all of your band's needs with an emphasis on community experience and fun. Drop them a line today to schedule your next recording session or to become a member of their studio today. This episode is brought to you by Bop Shop Records, Bernunzio Uptown Music, Sound Source, and Three Heads Brewing. Our home again this season is the warm, creative space of Bop Shop Records. At 1460 Monroe Avenue, Bop Shop Records is celebrating 30 years of presenting live creative music and is the best place in the 585 for jazz, blues, and classic rock in a curated vinyl selection. Bernunzio Uptown Music, located in Rochester's East End, has been providing Rochester and the world with quality vintage, new, and used string instruments since 1976. Bernunzio's also offers concerts, workshops, and jam sessions. They are now also a registered Stetson hat dealer. Find your sound in a Stetson. Trusted by musicians, recording engineers, and consumers, Sound Source is the place to go for audio gear, repair, consignment needs, and to have all your questions answered by knowledgeable and friendly staff. Visit them at 161 Norris Drive today. Good people, great beer, amazing music. Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue is quickly becoming a Rochester and regional favorite for unique brews and one-of-a-kind music. Concerts are Thursday through Saturday, with the Rochester residency kicking each week off, but the beer and good times are on tap every day of the week.
Way up a Mount Hope, that's where I rest, under willow trees and under tall grass. I'll wait for my love, I wait her home. Life you marry me? Marry me. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Marry me. In the morning she takes me, resting around willow tree. In that cool orchard grove, she sings to me. She is generous and kind, but Tasha